Welcome to Mind Blowing Energy in You, bringing the woo-woo to everyday living. I'm your host, Lynn Prophet, with Living Currents Energy and Life Coaching. And today we'll be talking to Julie Tidswell-Thulin, the brilliant mind behind Feel Good Friday. And Julie is also an angel card or an angel intuitive, an angel card reader, belief re-patterning practitioner, and coach. That's a lot of things, Julie is. So it's going to be an amazing show, but before we begin, I just want to give a quick shout out to today's sponsor, A Chime for Healing. Handcrafted wind chimes that are tuned to the healing frequencies, and you can check out A Chime for Healing at www.achimeforhealing.ca. Well, welcome, Julie, and we're so happy to have you here today.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Awesome. So, Julie, I mentioned you're behind Feel Good Fridays. You're an angel card reader, an angel intuitive, belief re-patterning practitioner, and coach.
Yes,
that's a lot of things.
Yes, it is. It's an umbrella that has lots under it. So yeah.
Okay.
Intuitive coach is a good description for me, but I use all of those modalities to support clients.
Oh, okay. So just tell us a little bit more about what you do and how it benefits your clients.
So really what I do is support people in figuring out why they're here, what brings them joy, and then I use those tools we mentioned, angels, belief repatterning, and just coaching after 25 years being in the coaching industry, of helping people sort through all that and start to move in the direction of their dreams, or continue moving in the direction of their dreams, hopefully. So that's sort of a Coles Notes version of what I do. And how I do it is I work with the angelic realm. And I do that through angel cards, but also I get messages and hits and vibes through the angels and through other people's angels. So when I'm doing a reading or working with a client, I'm connecting not just with the angels that are supporting me, but also the angels that are supporting them. And then with belief repatterning, what that really is helping people sort through, we all have limiting beliefs that whether we know consciously about those beliefs or not, our beliefs really have power over us. And when we have limiting beliefs, they have the equal amount of power that supportive beliefs have, but they're running in our subconscious. And so they keep us stuck in ways that we don't want to stay stuck. So belief repatterning is a technique that just shifts people sort of from limiting beliefs into supportive beliefs.
Okay, I have so many questions about each part of that.
Okay. I'll do my best to answer them.
Okay, well, let's just start with actually, what is kind of your personal motivation behind everything that you do?
Oh, for the longest time, as a kid growing up, I felt things, heard things, knew things, and I couldn't explain them. And when I would talk to people about them, I would either get funny looks or get told, we're not going to talk about that, right?
Yeah.
And so it took a long, long time for me to finally realize, first of all, I'm not crazy. And secondly, to start to tap into sort of what were all these things? Why was I thought everybody felt things, knew things, heard things. And it took a long time for me to realize that not everybody does, or not to the degree that I did, right? And so probably in my mid-20s, I started looking at what really is all of this. And I started doing, reading books on psychic abilities, and which led me to books on the law of attraction,
Mm.
which led me to books and ideas on the angels and those sorts of things. And I was resistant to a lot of those things, particularly the angels. The funny thing is I was really resistant to the angels, and because I just thought that doesn't make any sense. What are we talking about, right? So, and then it became sort of unavoidable, as things sometimes happen in life. It became unavoidable for me any longer to ignore what was happening. And as I started to learn and, open up to possibilities and open up to reading different types of books, I realized that my whole life, the angels have been talking to me loudly and guiding me and protecting me. And once I started to really understand that and study that a little bit more, everything changed. So I want to help other people tap into their own personal knowing, because I believe we all have that. I do believe it's like playing the piano. Any of us can play the piano. Some of us are more gifted than others. Any of us can talk to our angels and guides. Some of us are more gifted than others. It's we're all here for different reasons. But I think once you really tap into your inner knowing through the angels, through intuition, and through really looking at your beliefs, those things, once you become aware of them and once you start to use them, everything changes. And so I see so many people sort of stuck in this place of uncertainty or unhappiness or just going along for the ride. And that broke my heart. That's always broken my heart. Since I was a little kid, that has broken my heart. And so as I've gotten older, I realized that I have some gifts that I can offer people and help them own their truth, just like I had to own my truth of who I am and how I show up in the world. So that's sort of that's my motivation, is to really support other people in standing in their truth and in their power and living a really great, courageous life that I believe they are here to live.
Yeah, interesting. Well, Julie, if you think back to, like you said, when you were young and, you just knew things and, had all these other feelings and sensations and everything else.
Yeah.
But you said it took you up until your 20s to really start kind of almost taking it seriously.
Yes.
What would you wish somebody would have told you back then that would have made things easier for you?
Well, first of all, I would have wished someone would have said to me, "You're not crazy.
Okay.
And there's nothing wrong with you."
Yeah.
And that's a great question, because that's something that I say to parents now all the time. When parents come to me and they say, my kids are seeing things, or my kids are having these experiences, or they're telling me that there's somebody in their room and there's nobody there. There's somebody there. And so I wish somebody had said to me, it's okay that you're experiencing these things, and let's find you some support in how to manage them. Because we help our children manage all sorts of things, and we help and as adults, we try to manage all sorts of things. One of the ways we try to manage it is through drugs and alcohol, right? Prescription and non-prescription drugs and alcohol, or TV, or various addictions. And so I wish somebody would have said to me years ago that you're okay, and that this is who you are, and for you, this is normal. Now,
for people, say, that have kids, like you said, they're saying they're seeing things, or whatever's going on with them, and they are looking for support. Like, what type of support is there out for kids like that, or even adults like that?
Well, there's more and more, because when I was going through this was 25 years ago, right? And so when I was going through it, all of these types of topics were really considered questionable and suspect. And now, because there's so much more talk about it, because there's more and more people that are stepping into their truth of knowing things and feeling things, there's a lot more services and available for people. I work with kids as well as adults. I
Oh,
love working
okay.
with kids because when you work with kids, they're so connected. They don't have all of the years of suspicion and doubt that us adults do, right?
Yeah.
So working
Yeah.
with kids is super simple, super fun, and it's just really giving them the tools they need to manage what's happening in their world, right? And
Right.
children's tools are a little bit different than adult tools, in some ways, because adults, we want to make sense of things, and we have this idea that, you know, it has to follow some sort of a really logical pattern, and kids just are so trusting. And when I say to kids, you know, you can say, go to the light, I don't want you here.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, okay. And they don't ask me, well, how does that work, and how do I do that and everything. They go to the light, I don't want you here. And then they go, he's gone.
Oh.
I'm like, oh, awesome, right? And then their parents are saying, well, how did you do that? And what about this? And I go, it's energy, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so for parents that have kids that are struggling with things, I mean, by all means, do what feels right for you and follow medical advice if that feels right for you. But if it feels right to look into something a little bit more, a little less traditional than what we know in our Western culture, by all means, reach out to me, reach out to another intuitive. There's loads of people that work with kids, and ideally, if you find someone that does enjoy working with kids, that's going to be more beneficial than someone who has never worked with kids, right? And I have a background of working with kids in the child welfare system. That was where I started my career.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So, yeah.
I did not know that there were actually people dedicated to working with children in this area.
There are.
Okay, well, that's
when I was working in the child welfare system, I wasn't allowed to necessarily talk about some of the things that I knew.
Yeah.
But we went around that, right? So
We went around it.
Yeah. So,
you can always fit it in somehow.
Yeah, and they can't fire me now, right? So,
yeah, exactly. Well, perfect. Good, good. Yeah, actually, and Julie, this is part of what's so interesting about what you do. Like you said, it's energy.
Yeah.
And, even just talking about kids and their connection to the energy is so much more intact.
Oh.
Because, it is almost like as we grow up, so many things get taught out of us.
Right.
To live within society's rules, the church's rules, our family rules, our social rules.
Yeah.
And it seems to be that's what almost builds that disconnection to that energy outside of us. But yeah, and kids are so in touch with so many things, and yet we discount them.
Yes. And we tell them they're wrong, or that doesn't make sense, or that's not how it is. And then they start to, if that's how it is for them, and nobody acknowledges that, then we start to see behaviors maybe that aren't serving them. Then we start to see challenges that people go, this isn't my kid. But when your child was 2 and 3 and 4 and they were playing with their imaginary friends, you likely went along with them playing with their imaginary friends. And when they're 10 and 11 and 12 and they're still talking to their imaginary friends, sometimes we start to say, you're too old for that. And so they disconnect from this powerful, powerful source of insight and of strength and support. I hear the word support. Oh, hey, interesting. So I pulled a card. I just have to show you this before we started. And there was the card that showed up. Support, right?
Go figure.
So I think that's what the angels are wanting me to let you know is there's this huge energy of support around all of us. And when we learn to tap into that energy, everything changes.
Yeah. Very much so.
Right?
Yeah.
You've experienced it. I've experienced it. And the clients that we both work with have experienced it. So, Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it would certainly be a very different world if that original connection wasn't taught out of us.
Right. Wouldn't it ever?
Yeah,
Wouldn't it ever? The world I hope I live long enough to see.
yeah, yeah. Well, and Julie, honestly, like this just came to mind. I don't know if you know anything about this. I know I'm not, other than being familiar with it, but yeah, it was
Oh,
the Indigo Kids,
yeah.
Crystal.
Crystals and rainbow kids.
That's okay. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
And so the Indigo kids were sort of our warrior children. And those are the kids that came along really with, and they're adults now, right?
oh, okay.
And so the Indigo kids now are in their, I'm going to say many of them were born in the 80s and 90s. So they're in their, 20s and 30s,
Mhm.
right? And those kids are really the warriors that came forth to help shake things up a bit. When we look at what's happening within our political systems and with what's happening with women standing in their power and so on and so forth. Um, I think that is sort of the energy of the Indigo children. And then the crystals were the more loving energy. And the crystal children, people would say to me, my kids, if you take a crystal child into a crystal store, for example, it's nirvana for them. And they don't have to read what each crystal means. And they don't just work with crystals, but this is an example, right?
Yeah.
But they don't have to know what each crystal means. They already know. They feel the energy of the crystals. They feel the energy. They're so empathetic. They're the kids that take your head in their hands and go, I love you. And they just have such pure energy.
Mm-hmm.
And so those are the crystal kids. And then the rainbows are our most recent kids. And to be honest with you, I haven't studied as much about the rainbow kids as I have about the other two, because the other two are closer to my heart and closer to the ages that I tend to work with.
Right.
So yeah, but the rainbow kids are the younger kids now, and I think they're the peace keepers and the peace bringers. And so yeah.
Ooh,
So we're
so there
seeing,
is peace on the horizon.
yes, there is.
Yay.
There is. Yes.
So,
know
and with those kids, like actually, so it's the variety, like each of the energies that each of them is bringing to support and create change. Is that kind of the point and purpose behind them?
Yeah, they're
Okay.
bringing a different energy to the planet. And not every child that was born in the 80s and 90s was an indigo child. And
Mm.
not every child born, in the 90s and early 2000s was a crystal child. So I mean, but there's more of them coming forth, I believe. And we see that in the shifts in our children. We
Yeah.
see it in the changes in children. We see it in the way children show up in the world differently than they did in previous generations. And anyone that's raised one of those children knows that they have a child, whether it's an indigo, a crystal, or a rainbow, they have a child that doesn't quite fit
Yeah.
the norm.
Yeah.
Right? And so embrace those and allow them to flourish, because they're a gift to humanity. They're a gift to the world. And it's our responsibility as the adults around them to really support them in showing up in their truth and in their power. So, yeah.
It's just so interesting. That is, you can tell because they don't fit into
Right.
what we consider the norm.
The
And
box.
but going back to, if all of us hadn't grown up with those, I guess, in a sense, limitations,
Yeah.
would we be completely different and more like those kids? I'm not sure. It's just a thought.
I think it's a sort of an ongoing, transition
Right.
for the world, right?
Okay.
For humanity.
Mhm.
And so I think, and I mean, there were certainly, those of us that came early, like, 52 years ago in my case, that came in to help set the stage for this next wave and the next wave and the next wave. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. No, going back to actually like your angels.
Okay.
Okay, energetically, how does that work with the angels? Like, I mean, like, I guess I have my viewpoint of, just because we connect so much with the physical, that it's almost like we have to label different types of energies to be able to explain them to ourselves in our own heads.
Yes.
And so, for me, I always just talk about, somebody's people, or, I refer to them as different.
Yeah.
You've heard me do that several times. But now, is that kind of the same with angels? Is it about terminology, or is there something specific about the angels?
So my understanding of the angels is that they are God's workers, right? And there's various levels of angels. There's a hierarchy within the angelic realm. The angels that we are most familiar with here on planet Earth would be our guardian angels. Everyone comes in with a guardian angel, or more, and also sort of the helper angels, and those are the angels that support us at various times in our lives, that maybe we're going through a crisis, so more angels will show up. And then there's the archangels, which is sort of the top tier of those three, and the archangels are I just heard the word, we're the boss. So they're my angels, and the angels, I have fun with the angels. Like, they're not super serious, right? They're here to help us. Anything that helps us on this journey, the angels are there to help us with. Anything that lifts our vibration, provides us peace and love and joy, those are all things that the angels are here to support us with. And so how we feel our energies, and I have a course that I teach on this, but I'll give you the version. We do, there's the ones that people are most familiar with are clairvoyance, clairaudience, clairsentient.
Yeah.
And clairvoyance is clear seeing. So you may see something, and you may see it outside of yourself, or you may see it in what we call our mind's eye.
Okay. Yeah.
Clairaudience is clear hearing. So you'll hear something. And that, again, could be you'll hear a song on the radio that sends you a message where you go, oh, I needed to hear that. Oh, or you'll hear a conversation in the grocery store, and it's like, oh, that just answered the question I was asking.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Or you may hear it inside your sort of head.
Right.
And it'll be a sound or a message, and I've heard people say that, how sometimes you get that ringing in your ear, that high vibration ringing, that is often the angels trying to get their message to you.
Oh.
And so when that happens, you can just ask them to give it to you in a more obvious way, because the high ringing in your ear probably isn't helping.
Probably not.
So ask for a more obvious sign.
Yes. Yes.
And then the clairsentient is clear sense or clear feeling, and it's just that feeling you get, and it just comes over you, and you can't explain it. So, and the other thing about the angels is their messages are always filled with love.
Okay. Yeah.
They are about love. So if you get a scary, if you hear something scary, that's not your angel. It's more likely your ego.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, yes, the ego.
So, yeah. So, So does that kind of answer that a little bit?
Yeah, actually, I'm just a little bit curious. What's your course called?
Angel Intensive.
An Angel Intensive. Okay.
Yeah.
And is this something you run quite often, or?
Yeah, I've got two coming up in 2018. I've got one in Saskatchewan, actually, just outside of Lloydminster in January, and then I've got one here in the city in Edmonton in February. So.
Okay, great. Well, you know what, Julie? I'm going to have you back for a guest again, because we didn't even really get to touch belief repatterning.
Oh, yes.
Which I would still actually, and I'm sure a lot of other people would like to hear about, because you know exactly what you said is our beliefs in a sense hold us hostage a little bit, or they can, and You
Or
know?
they can crack us wide open
Yeah.
to greater potential. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. They can allow us to be all we want to be, or they can keep us shut in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
And changing them can be challenging for sure.
Yes.
Yeah. It's amazing. So I think we have a whole other show just waiting for us.
Okay. I'm in.
Perfect, Julie. Perfect. Well, Julie, if anybody listening wants to find out a little bit more about what you do, a little bit more about yourself, or even just they do have a child that they are maybe a little bit curious about because they're saying they are seeing things. How can people find out more about you, and where can they go to do that?
So I write a Feel Good Friday message every week, and I post it on my Facebook page, which is Feel Good Friday. So search for Feel Good Friday on Facebook. It's www.facebook.com/feelgoodfriday8, the number 8.com. Or you can go to my website, which is a work in progress, but it does have contact information on there. So, and my website is www.feelgoodfriday8.com.
Okay, so Feel Good Friday 8 is Facebook and your website.
Yes.
Okay, and for everybody that didn't catch all that all at once, I'll put it up at the end of the podcast here so you can actually pause and take a look at what it is.
Awesome.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Julie. This has been absolutely amazing, and I can't wait to hear more from you and the Angels.
Thank you. Thank you, Lynn. It's been a pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
Awesome. Well, perfect, Julie. You go and have a great day. And
you too.
I will talk to you soon.
Angel blessings.
And thank you all for joining us today. Our guest was Julie Tidswell-Thulin, Angel Intuitive, Angel Card Reader, Belief Re-patterning Practitioner and Coach. Find out more about Julie. And I'm your host, Lynn Prophet, with Living Currents Energy and Life Coaching. You can find out more about myself at livingcurrents.com. And a special thanks today to our sponsor, A Chime for Healing, handcrafted wind chimes tuned to healing frequencies. Thanks all for joining us on Mind-Blowing Energy and You, bringing the woo-woo to everyday living. We look forward to seeing you next time when we have another exciting guest. Till then, go live your mind-blowing energy.